Ruidosa Art Collective brings you El Barrio. A Ruidosa Art Collective series offers you a look into the dopest creatives straight from El Barrio. We will be interviewing a variety of artists from all walks of life and getting a glimpse of their creative processes and how their art came to be what it is today. In this episode, we have Teresa Magaña, co-founder and executive director of Pilsen Arts and Community House. Welcome, Teresa.
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's an honor to have you. If you would like to start off by introducing yourself, telling us about who you are.
My name is Teresa Magaña. And like you mentioned, I'm co-founder of Pilsen Arts and Community House. Other co-founder is Pablo Ramirez, who's also my partner in life as well. And I'm the director, so I wear all the hats right now.
Yes.
We've been running Patch for short for 4 years as a nonprofit. Yeah. This July it'll be 5 years. Prior to that, though, we were running as a for-profit gallery called Pilsen Outpost for about 7 years. So we've been. I tell people we're doing the same thing as we were as Pilsen Outpost, but as a nonprofit entity now. Yeah. Which has been really sustainable and very beautiful how it's been able to grow and gain like good support from the community. Right. But all in all, we've been doing this work in Pilsen and surrounding Chicagoland area for, now I realize it's 11 years because we started in 2014 when we got our first brick and mortar. So
yeah, I know that's a whole journey, and I'm sure there's many people like myself that appreciate all of the intent and every single phase of Patch and you and Pablo's experience and giving back into the community. So thank you so much for that. Thank you. So if you could just tell us about you and your art career, because you're an artist, and I would love to explore that. I feel like people know you as this amazing Teresa that gets everything done, but also you're an amazing artist. So I would love to
Thanks.
Talk about
sometimes
that.
People don't know that I am a visual artist.
Yes.
I didn't actually start visual arts until much later in life as an adult, but I like to consider myself a multimedia or mixed media artist because I do painting, drawing, digital illustration. There was a good stretch of years I was doing murals, mostly commercial. I've assisted with public art projects, and a teaching artist with the Museum of Mexican Art. That was one of my first, what I felt like was a professional gig that like helped to just kind of give me that, in my mind, like that recognition of I'm a self-taught artist and I have skills to share with young people and adults, because I was able to be teaching adults while I was working with them. But prior to the visual art, I am a big band nerd in different ways.
I love that.
I played the clarinet since grammar school, and I played throughout high school. And as an adult, I was part of a variety of different community bands, concert bands, and the funnest one I was part of was the Licorice Sticks. It was an ensemble band of all clarinets. And we got to like dress out. Anytime we performed, we would wear 20 styles clothes, like flapper dress and things like that. Cool. So I did that for a couple of years. And this was all like separate from me having a full-time job and 2 young kids. So, and I'm also a writer, a poet. I don't get to do it, or I don't do it as often as I'd like, but that was actually in my younger years, before family and work and all that. I was into a lot of poetry and doing a lot of poetry and writing. I feel like I reflect back and I feel like even though I had like a corporate job for a very big part of my life, before that, like I realized like I was an artist, I was a creative. So my life journey has taken me in different paths, but it always brought me back to like creative lifestyle.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you mentioned that, which was my other question. What was the moment where you realized, you're in this corporate job? And I think we have talked about it before, the way we as women artists, creatives interpret our responsibilities and everything we're supposed to do, but also this desire to create, to put out good work into the world. Could you pinpoint that to an exact moment as to where you had almost that like realization where, obviously we have to sustain ourselves, but, maybe prioritizing or focusing more into the arts?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of us were... that didn't have the upbringing of support with family, like saying like, art and creative, whatever you want to do it, which a lot of us, we don't grow up that way, right? So having this idea of like, and especially since I had my children young, I was 18 with my first and 22 with my second. So me knowing that I had a stable job, that fortunately I had very good mentors and managers there that helped me excel in that job. And it's like every year I would get a raise, every year I'd get like a new leadership role or position or something, and it became comfortable. But I just because of life's circumstances or where I was at that time, I was like, this is great, this is perfect. I can take care of myself and my family. But my kids start getting older, they start doing their own thing. And I mean, I started adulting very young. So I think by the time I was 27-ish, and I feel like I've met a lot of young women. I'm 45 now, so I feel like women that I meet that are in their mid to late 20s and they're reaching that, I'm like, I think this is a common thing that we might be going through during that time. And at 27, I was like, and I had already been in that job since I was 19, so I was there for almost 14 years.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I'm gonna be 30 in just a few short years. Do I really want to keep doing this? And it was a good job, it wasn't, I never felt like that particular kind of corporate job was super problematic because it was a franchise type of situation. It was I worked for Midas Corporation.
Okay.
So I met a lot of, I'm gonna go off topic a little bit, but I met a lot of entrepreneurs that were like gathered their money, and a lot of times it was family run, and they didn't come from wealth. They were like hardworking, I guess like middle class entrepreneurs, like business minded, and wanted to create something for themselves and their families and things like that. So at that time the company was being run very mindfully, I guess.
That's amazing.
So I like that, but a lot of things started changing with the company. And I had already started my visual art path and was starting to do workshops and classes and just creating my own artwork and venturing off into like doing markets and art fairs and things like that. And family and friends used to think like, oh, that's something. Of course you do that because you do music, you do writing, you go to poetry readings. Like that's just an extra thing that you're doing. But I started realizing, and I guess it was like the entrepreneurial mind in myself where like, no, I think I can make a living doing this. Yes. Yeah, and I started meeting other women doing the same thing and in different ways. Like it might have not been art, if it was like they were makers, whether it was like candles or jewelry or whatever it was. Like I was meeting more entrepreneurial type women, and I'm like, I want to work for myself. And I felt like all of these, it was male dominated company, and I'm like, all these men and their families and their wives and their daughters and the sons, like they're all helping with all this. And I was reflecting like, my kids come with me to every market that I go to and they help me. So around that time, 27-ish, I said, I'm going to make an exit strategy plan. I said, I want to start saving. I'm going to start doing some stuff. And I said, max 3 years, I'm going to quit this job.
Oh my God.
And then within a year of me saying that, the company got bought out, and it was going to move to Florida. So they started telling us way in advance who's going to get laid off or if you want to move and, this and that. and everybody's shocked and like, oh my God, we're losing our jobs. And I'm like, yes, I'm gonna get laid off. I've been here 14 years. I calculate I'm gonna get a good severance package. I can collect unemployment for a certain amount of time, and I just went in action mode. I downsized my apartment. I had a really big 3-bedroom apartment. We went down to a small 2-bedroom here in Pilsen. And I just like immediately like talked to my kids, and I said, hey, some things are gonna change. We're gonna be fine, but we're gonna do something different. And they were all for it, you know. And I think around that time, by the time I was 30, and by the time I did get let go, I was already like in a good path. And I said, okay, I'm going to give this 1 year. If I feel that I can sustain my family, me and my kids for 1 year straight, then I'm going to keep doing, and I'm going to keep doing. And luckily, and I'm a strong believer, you manifest what you speak. And I said it. And I always tell my kids, and anybody that talks to me, I said, look, once I got into this peaceful state of like, the money will always come, Diosito me va a cuidar, I swear, sometimes like checks would just show up.
I love
for
that.
the most randomest things. Or I would charge something for a service or activity, and they'd pay me double. You know, it was always, it was a time in my life where I felt like, truly what you put out there is going to come back to you, and can sometimes come back double, triple, you know. And if it wasn't financial, it was through network, it was through resource. And I never looked back. And I remember some family and friends were like, you know, right when they knew we were gonna lose our jobs, they're like, have you gone on interviews? Have you, do you have a job lined up? I'm like, no, I'm gonna do this and that. And they thought I was crazy.
They always do.
And only a few people, they're like, well, what about your kids? And I'm like, what about them? And they're like, well, what are you gonna do? I'm like, we eat every day.
Period.
We eat 3 meals a day. They got a roof over our head. We don't got to worry about nothing.
I love that.
And throughout that process, I ran into Pablo. Because we knew of each other in high school, but we didn't connect until adulthood. And he was on that kind of same path. He had a certain kind of job that he was doing for a long time, and there was a group of us, like a circle of friends. We were all within that stage of like our early 30s. Then now at that time wanting to transition to like, it's like something inside of you. If you're supposed to be a creative person in your life, or whatever your calling is, it's like, I don't know what that stage or that magic number is. You know, I'm into a lot of symbolism and spiritualism and stuff, and I'm like, those early 30s, it shakes us up. We get shooken up by our spirit, and so we all found each other, and we all like motivated each other to do the different things that we were all gonna do. So
that's so beautiful. Wow, I literally, as someone that's also, going through this, it's so validating and reassuring to hear that. And I do think that's true. It's almost like, I love what you said about like, it doesn't leave you alone. And it eventually, it makes you pay attention to, your creativeness and, maybe take that risk. You mentioned meeting Pablo. Was he already at Pilsen Outpost, or how did the creation of Patch or that trajectory happen?
I always tell people it's been an organic journey. Because when we connected with those group of friends too, a handful of us were working on personal projects, and we're like, we need space outside of our home to do this. So Pablo was the one that was like, let's find a studio. And I had never at that time like thought about like, oh, an art studio, a studio, like what is that? Like it was just all very new to me. And he found this amazing space in Brighton Park. It was like 49th and Campbell area, nice and hidden, but it was this live workspace. It was like a warehouse on the bottom and an apartment on the second floor.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so it was really dope because him and another guy, like there was two, you know, it was like him and two other guys that lived upstairs, and then the whole downstairs, like we all shared it. And we started our first art collective, or the studio was named Blink Mob Studios. And the name came from a book by Malcolm Gladwell. It's called Blink. And it talks about, it's been so long, I don't remember everything, but I remember that a handful of people had read the book, and it's one of these things where it's like when you walk into a room and you just, in a blink of an eye, you can, like, your perception can pick up and know like certain things, you know. So it was kind of one of these things where like we all had collectively come together and we're like, we know we want to do this or that, you know.
So powerful.
So we called it Blink Mob Studios. We started with about maybe 8 of us, and I always tell people that are part of collectives and groups and projects, I'm like, it's hard and it's a commitment, and you know, you either stick through it through all the ups and downs, or you make hard decisions. And at the end, it was just me and Pablo.
No, but good.
But in a good way. Like, people took their paths. That was also our first experience after like the Blink Mob Collective kind of went their own ways, where we were managing a studio space because we didn't want to let go of the space. So we started offering the space affordably to other artists and creatives that wanted to do projects. So it became like a co-working studio space. All this language that I didn't know at the time. And then now, you know, here we are so many years later where it's like, it was an incubator, basically. So we started as that. We were hosting art shows. We were hosting music performances, poetry performances. It was a very DIY, you know, kind of thing. And we had experienced that as teenagers in Pilsen through different DIY spaces, Pablo especially. So it felt good to like bring that to another generation, but also like some of our old school friends and people like, oh, I remember we used to do this kind of thing. And eventually the owner of the building, he was going to sell it. So so we had to leave, and we're like, what are we going to do? And I still kept on my own personal art journey, and he was doing that as well. And then we had linked up with Diana Solis during that time. And Diana Solis, everybody knows her in different capacities: photographer, visual artist, painter, teacher, educator, everything. She wears all kinds of hats. So we met her during the time where she was really like hustling her artwork, and we bonded together and on that journey, and started Pilsen Outpost. And that was another thing where we started as a selling at a farmer's market, sharing a table or a tent, and then some of our artist friends being like, can I just give you a couple items so you could sell for me? And it started with 2 artist friends. Then you know, we met more artists, and they're like, oh, I heard you guys are going, you know, to markets and stuff. Can you I can't be there, but can you sell my stuff? So we're like, hey, I think we're onto something here. Let's do something. And so we started Pilsen Outpost and La Catrina Cafe that used to be on Morgan and 18th. They were so generous and gracious, because we were doing all these markets and art fairs and festivals and things like that. And then the winter time came.
Oh no.
And they're like, what are you guys going to do for the winter? And we're like, I guess we're going to take a break. Henceforth, so many years we don't take breaks.
No, absolutely, there's no breaks.
But they had just expanded their cafe to an additional part of that space they had, and said, hey, you can take up space here. And it was about maybe 20 feet wide by 8 feet or deep. You know, it was just like this corner spot. And said, you know, set up whatever you want, like a pop-up kind of thing. And at that time, pop-ups weren't or a big thing in Chicago. It was like a big thing in LA and New York. And Pablo had already been on that kind of trajectory, thinking after the festivals, how do we pop up in retail locations or empty spaces? So he's like, this is perfect. So the name was Pilsen Outpost, but we abbreviated it as like POP, like pop, you know,
my God.
Kind of thing.
I never knew that. Lord, amazing.
So I mean, I know pop-ups have been around for a long time, but it felt really good to kind of want to be one of those first few. entities that was starting to do that in Chicago. So we had a pop-up in their space for what was supposed to be 3 months, ended up being 6 months. And within that time, and still doing festivals, people asking us, where can I find you after this? Where's your store? Where's your brick and mortar? Because by that time we were already representing 20 to 30 artists. And it was anywhere from like stickers or pins to like paintings, posters, prints. And we're like, okay, well, the people are asking for it. Let's give it to them.
Give the people what they want.
Yes. And we found this spot on 21st and Damon. It took us a year to convince that landlord to let us rent it, because he was this very... it was this couple, this old school Polish husband and Mexican wife that had been owned their building forever. And he was very particular about, what are you going to do in my space?
I can imagine.
Yeah, and he's like, I have all my storage stuff. He used to kind of run it as like a mini little flea market kind of thing.
Oh, so cute.
And the wife was like, I need you to get rid of all those things. Let these kids do what they want to do. It took us a year to talk to him and build that relationship. And he was like, okay. He gave us the space. And that was our first official in 2014 official space. We did a soft opening in October of 2014. Our first show was called I Left My Wallet in La Cermak.
Yes.
And that's like a whole nother conversation.
Yeah,
for, like, how that exhibition was the kickoff to a lot of things. And then in November we had our official like grand opening.
That's amazing.
Around Day of the Dead. And that was really great. And then fast forward, from, again, art shows, exhibitions, giving people an opportunity to sell their artwork in-house somewhere, and them not having to go to festivals. And then people starting to come and say, hey, I have a group of students that I need, we want to do like a culminating event. Or folks like Ruidosa Collective coming and saying, hey, we have a band that wants to like play, and do a show. People like, oh, I heard you have a space. We want to do a poetry reading. Oh, hey, we have a film. Can we do a film screening? And this was the community coming to us, responding to an active space. And I think during that time, because how everything was changing in the neighborhood and continually is, it was what I still say is a constant, having a space that's a constant and that is not going to just disappear. And to some folks, it was like, oh, that's your guys' project, and oh, that's your collective. And it's like, we had to educate people like, no, it's not a project. Right. This is a committed business. Right. And we were doing it in the spirit of like, we're going to teach artists how to run, take care of their art as a business and an entrepreneur, because we were doing the same thing with ours. Yeah. But it's very hard.
So hard. And I already know.
It's hard. And we still joke that as Pilsen Outpost, we never made profit. Yeah. So it was always an underlining joke, like, we're a nonprofit. Why didn't we just become a nonprofit? Start from the beginning. Yeah. But during that time as well, nonprofits in Pilsen just carried like a heavy stigma. Yeah. And we're like, we don't want to be part of that. We don't want to be judged. We don't want to have to. And at the time, we weren't that knowledgeable on how we could run an arts nonprofit. And we stood our ground in that we don't want to be tied to or not held accountable, but like have to answer to like a board and like big funders, or like if you partner with this org or that org, or you take money. It was just like, no, we're artists. We're gonna do our thing. We don't want nobody to tell us what to do.
I love that.
So we were very like, no, the nonprofit's not for us. But we learned a lot. And when 2020 came and everything shut down, and we were tired. I'll be honest. We were a lot of people don't know, we were ready to just take that deep breath and be like, we can say we did it. Right. We could say we provided a lot, and let's just focus on us. Because Pablo's like, aren't you tired? This is kind of, because a lot of people did take that opportunity to be like, you know what, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm just gonna close down. Not for, because it was very hard financially for a lot of people, but also I think some people felt like they were given that permission to be like, I'm just gonna stop for now, because everything stopped.
Yeah, the world stopped. So
yeah,
it was a very appropriate response.
Yeah, and we sat on that thought for a couple weeks right after the shutdown, and then we started getting emails and calls and messages and, how are you guys? How's the space? What are you guys gonna do? And concerned and being like, I hope you guys make it through this. And we're like, oh damn, we're gonna disappoint a lot of people if we shut down. And by that time, I kind of skipped a spot in the story, but the owner of the space that we're at now, they had invited us to take that space. So that's how we moved from 21st to 18th.
Okay, yes.
That landlord on 18th came to us and offered it to us. And I just want to make that really clear, because there was an article out there that twisted that story around.
Oh, no.
And I want to just clear the air that we had a very affordable rate on 21st and Damon. And on 18th, we're like, we can't move there. You know, it costs too much. We know what the rents are over there. And he's like, no, we'll work it out with you. We want something that serves the community in that space, because they were getting offers from like chains and commercial, you know, kind of things that wasn't aligning with the way they felt about what they wanted to have their commercial space used as. So we probably have the most under market rent on 18th because of the landlord. So I love to give them credit for it, because they were very conscious people.
Yes.
We weren't kicked out or forced out or like
she's setting it clear
of the red. Right, exactly. It was because other people believed in us, and they felt we deserved to be on 18th Street. And so that was a blessing. So again, you know, then again back to 2020, people very concerned. How are you going to make it? And we never qualified for all of that relief fund, because we were a for-profit business, and we never paid ourselves. A lot of people don't know this. We were paying a lot out of our own pocket, our own money, savings, gigs. You know, it's like we had to pay the rent and open the doors. You know, so a lot of it paid itself. You know, but like I said, we never made it in the green.
Girl, I feel you.
And I said, you know what? And we didn't qualify for that funding and that relief. And I was learning that a lot of arts organizations were getting funding and relief support. And I'm like, man, if we would have done that, like, you know, we would have had a little bit of a cushion. And I had started the process through the state of registering us as a nonprofit org, but I hadn't done the federal side for the 501c3.
Okay.
So I said, hey, we did that first step. Let's just do it. Let's just see. And I did all my research. I'm the type of person, like, I self-teach, I self-learn. I don't have a degree. Like, everything I do is based on experience and other people teaching me or me looking it up. And I found out how to do it. And I mean, Google's awesome.
Google's amazing.
Well, let me just say the state of Illinois website is so great. I mean, I don't like to give government a lot of like praise, but like they will tell you how to do everything step by step.
Really?
So you could do it on your own. And we got our 501c3 status within a couple of months.
That's
and
amazing.
I said, people were like, how did you do that? I'm like, we started from scratch. We started from zero because we didn't have any money.
Right.
Started a new name. And the one thing I can say it could take 6 months to a year to get your 501c3 status. And I'm like, well, everybody was on lockdown and at home. Yeah. So maybe all these people that were working from home were just like going through all the applications and just like,
let's do it. I'm bored. I can actually work.
Yeah, exactly. So, so by the time July came, when everything was
kind
allowed to open up,
we
were able to open up as Pilsen Arts Community House. So it's very hard to summarize that journey from that one question you asked. So apologies that it went that long, but I think it's important to share. Like, we just didn't do it out of nowhere. This has been years in the making. You know, definitely years in the making. And it started with that Blink Mob Studio, like we did that in 2011.
Yeah.
We had started that in 2011. So that's how long we've been
Yeah, it's the foundation. It's all the little, and exactly how you said, like, a lot of people don't see or they assume, and it's so important to speak about the process, right? To not only to inspire, but also to create awareness and also to validate your experience. And as someone that has firsthand seen the community openness, the community response from Patch, I got a little emotional because to think that Patch wouldn't be there, that you guys wouldn't be there, man, that would like really affect all of us. But again, as the organizers, it's so important to validate you guys and also like hear your story, hear everything that has happened, because again, it just means so much to us. And thank you for setting the record clear, for you know, being transparent like that. It's amazing.
That's been a big commitment that we made to each other about being transparent as a nonprofit, so we could help kind of alleviate that stigma that people have about nonprofits in Pilsen. But also just so you have to build relationships with your community so they could trust you, that they could put their faith in you, and also that they know that it's not just surface level, and that it's not performative, that it's like sincere, and I mean, this is truly like my lifestyle. Like I don't have another agenda. I don't do it for any other reason. That like if I wasn't doing this, I would probably be depressed. I'd probably be. Talk about it. I don't know how to go back to a normal regular job.
That's the one.
I did it briefly, seasonally during pandemic. Like I was looking to get like a online customer service job. You know, and that's my background. So, but even then, I only, you know, once we could all go back to doing what we're doing, like I had to put that aside. But yeah, like even that, like both me and Pablo, we've had to manage either part-time jobs, freelance gigs. I did about 1.5 or 2 years of a full-time job and running Patch.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So yeah, because and people are like, why would you do that? I'm like,
we need to pay.
Like, we need the space open. And I know there's a lot of volunteers and support and things like that, and we do get that a lot, and I appreciate that. But I'm also a strong believer in that things have changed in what volunteerism is. And I think when we're within our own community, within our own gente, like we're at a point in this time where we deserve to be valued and paid for everything we do, even if it's at a minimal level. And so anytime I have people that help, like I always want to make sure, do I have something to offer them? Do I have a stipend? Is there a budget for it? Sometimes we've gotten like project grants, so it's like, great, I can actually pay them, you know, a living, you know, kind of type of stipend. And the volunteerism is much smaller, you know, and I think it's a balance, because as we're always going to prioritize what's going to sustain us first, and I understand that of people. So I've never expected that the space or that patch or the gallery would be run solely on volunteers. Like we all have lives, we all have commitments, we all got to earn a living. And when you have that extra time and you want to put it there, I love it. Like, great, thank you. Like, come by, you know? But yeah, and that is also as a way to model within our community specifically how we value the support that we're receiving as well. So
yeah, it's a very beautiful like symbiotic relationship. The Pilsen Arts and Community House being there, and then the response from the community, and that to me is something that, as someone that activates there, that has seen, been activating at Patch for about 2 years now, that always fills my heart to see the community there, right? And again, how you said, there's no agenda, there's no hidden messages. It's literally for the community, for the people. And that's what drew me to you guys. That's what truly made me feel safe. And never to bash on other organizations, but again, I feel like if you claim to be for community, then there's certain authenticity that you have to carry, and Patch does an exceptional job of like feeling like that, just authentic and real.
Thank you. I appreciate that because it is true. And it's, I mean, both Pablo and I are this very like, we say what we say. We say what we mean and mean what we say. And what you get is what you get. And yeah, like we're not gonna bash on other organizations, but I think as far as being able to again model an example of how to care for how people are coming in and how people are being received and welcomed and treated, and also because I've gone through this, and a number of like collective friends or other artists or colleagues have in professional ways, like we get people extract from us, you know, and people and there's such a thing as extracting from just even your own community, and I think that's where like the unhealthy balance sometimes can come from in some spaces and organizations, you know, and it's not that a lot, so thank God, right? But we do, and the thing is we need to feel comfortable to talk to each other about it, so that way the safety and the accountability also is there, and that we should be able to like tell each other and to try to do better and not like fix things, but like all we can do is learn from each other and then try to do better. And
you know those experiences. Oh my God, not me fighting with the microphone. Oh my God, Teresa, that's so amazing. Thank you. I see you have a Tribe Called Chicago shirt, and I'm wondering if you would like to talk about. I know you have a lot of group art shows, and they're so iconic. I definitely got inspired from seeing your activation and the group shows there. But I feel like this is a very specific one to you and Pablo and this whole story. So if you would like to tell us about it, how did it come to be? And even plug us up because I know it's coming up. So
yes, it is. So fun fact is that Pablo's a big hip hop head. Like, super big hip hop head. Me too. Like we're 90s kids, so we grow up on what we say is the best hip hop, you know, that ever was. We lived through the golden age of that, and
so lucky.
You know, a lot of people don't know that about me. I don't know by perception or how I present, but it's like, you know, I listen to Tribe Called Quest, Wu-Tang, Cypress Hill, you know, Tupac, Biggie, like all the gangster rap, all the, you know, hip hop and stuff. And so Tribe Called Quest was one of these. Him and I like bonded over when we were getting to know each other more. I would be playing my playlist and we'd be listening in a Tribe, and he's like, oh, you know, and we'd get into it. And then there was another time I played Funk Dubious. And he's like, you know, how do you know who Funk Dubious is?
Why do they always say that? Like yo, I'm allowed to have good music taste. So we were really, you know, because that first show that we had as Post and Outpost was I Left My Wallet in La Cermec, which is a take on I Left My Wallet in El Segundo, which is a song by Tribe Called Quest. So when we were coming up with group show to celebrate being a nonprofit, it was it's our anniversary show. We're like, let's take it back to where we first started. So let's take it back. And thought about we're like, well, let's say I left my wallet in La 18th or La 18, and we were like playing with all the names and stuff, and it just wasn't feeling right. And eventually we're like, you know what, let's just do it a Tribe Called Chicago. You know, and I know there's the variations of Tribe Chicago. There's like a media online media presence that does that, and I think there's another one, Chicago Tribe or something. There's variations, but we're like, okay, let's play with the logo. Let's give our youth our own background of our hip hop youth. It's like nod, you know, and so it's from the Midnight Marauders album cover, like the colors. The first variation had like the woman shape. But we also were like reflecting on how we're Chicago CTA kids. You know, people say like, oh, latchkey kids. We call ourselves the CTA kids because that's how we got around in the city, whether the bus or the train. You know, from north side to south side. That's how we got to, for those of us that were either fortunate or being rebellious and traveling all over the city, the CTA was a big part of our lives. So, and I think any like Chicago hardcore person, like they
that experience that, they get it. So so we wanted to bring it all together with, it's a group show.
Yeah.
We're taking inviting artists from all over the city.
Wow.
Because we always want to make sure that any of our group shows are not just representing like a roster of certain artists or a roster of like an area of Chicago. Like, we always want to make sure it's balanced. And so it was like, well, A Tribe Called Chicago encompasses not only giving honor to like the indigeneity of where we're at, right? But also that even though the city is divided and how segregated it is, like the CTA like ties us all together and brings us together. So it was a lot of symbolism in how we thought like we feel strongly about this. And we talk about it with artists when they sign up, and we put in the little blurb when the call for artists. So we do these big CTA style maps with the neighborhoods as well, and each artist is invited to create their artwork on the silkscreen map. There's going to be a new variation this year, so it's going to be something different. It's going to be not the same.
I can't wait.
And it's in July, so we celebrate our anniversary in July for that whole month, because that's when we opened up as the nonprofit and became official a couple months before that, but like as like opening to the public. So
that's amazing.
And it's a branded show. It's a theme show. It's our fundraising efforts too. So the artist still gets 50% of the sales, but 50% gets donated to the organization. And sometimes artists will donate any unsold work, so then we can continue to sell it and raise money for the organization. So
that's so awesome. And this is the 5th year?
This will be the 5th year.
Oh wow.
Because it was 2020.
That's amazing.
That we opened, so.
Wow, Teresa, thank you. And so we're gonna be closing up soon, but I just wanted to see if you had this whole conversation has been so real, and I know it's even helping me and inspiring me, but I was just wondering if you had any other advice for artists, for creatives. I know it's a very cliche question, but we're all trying to make it, and you as a community leader and activator, I would just love to hear, if you have any advice like that.
Yeah. I think there's so much I could say.
Yeah,
I think what you just mentioned right now, you as a community leader and as an activator, hearing that from someone else is still sometimes hard for me to receive. Yeah. Because I just see myself as Teresa. Right. I'm an artist. I just do what I do. And I think I just want to just say that as artists and as creatives, whether we want it or not, there is certain responsibilities that we have as taking that lifestyle or that being of ourselves. Yes. And it takes a while to explore that and to tap into that. But when you start getting messages in the sense of like your peers or through your work, and something is being pulled from you, try not to question it too much and just go with it, because you might not see yourself as like you said, a community leader or an activator or an organizer, but you are, or you can be, and you have to start kind of letting that sink in and believe that in yourself. So just like pay attention to like that responsibility to yourself, to allow yourself to become what you're supposed to become. I guess is the best way I could say it.
Yes. A lot of the times we get in our own way, and it's all that thinking that jumbles us up. Yeah. And then, what is your zodiac sign? Because
I love that.
We love zodiac signs over here, especially the book club knows. And so
I am 100% Taurus, 1,000% Taurus.
Earth signs holding it down.
My birthday is May 9th. 9 is a powerful number. I've learned.
Super powerful.
I have learned to start embodying all of the essence of what stars were aligned and planets were aligned when I was born, because it can be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it matters. And it's also when people like bash on like astrology or even like, you know, things from the stars or stuff like that, I'm like, well, it's a form of spirituality. It's a form of human connection and interaction. So I always like to ask, and of course, you're an air sign, or I'm sorry, an earth sign, because of the, you know, just pushing everything forward and all your work that you've done. But again, I want to thank you not only as Ruidosa Art Collective, a little bit of lore too. A lot of people don't know that without Teresa, the book club wouldn't have started. Ruidosa definitely would have never met. And thank you so much for that, because meeting you changed my life completely. Not only did it change my life, it created this beautiful community, right, with book club and Ruidosa. And so thank you, Teresa. Your work does not go unnoticed. Your work is so important to us. And, you know, I really, really love you. You are one of my mentors. We need more women like you to inspire, but also how you kept on repeating to just be themselves and and just put that out into the world. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I can only wish to continue this beautiful friendship we have developed.
Yeah, gracias. Yes. Thank you so much for that. It warms my heart that the work always continues, and I'm so happy. I'm like so filled every time I walk into that space and you guys are there, and like the room is full wall to wall.
I know.
That to me is like, that for me is like success for community,
right?
Not success for me, like literally success for community. And that's I think that's all I can ever feel like accomplish for the space that it's doing that, and it'll continue to do that even when me and Pablo are gone. We're gonna hand it off to other people, you know.
We will carry
so
the torch.
I'm glad that's being received that way. So thank you so much for those words.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you, Teresa, for this beautiful conversation. We've gone through so much, and I know that this is going to further serve to, you know, get to know you and inspire. Where can we find Patch? Where can we donate to Patch? Is there any initiatives coming up?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
so we do have a very long name on Instagram. It's Pilsen Arts with an S, Community House. You can find us on Instagram and our website. We're on 1637 West 18th Street, across the street from Nuevo Leon Panaderia. That's how I direct people.
Delicious.
And this month of February is our fundraising February month.
Yes.
We have amazing art that's going to be at clearance sale. Come through. You're going to find some good things. And we're kicking off our campaign for the year, raising our operation costs for the year. It'll run through the year, but it kicks off this February.
Okay.
So please go on our website, hit the donate button. You can make a team for yourself and pledge that a group of people will raise money for Patch.
That's amazing.
Or you can create a team as the collective, as Ruidosa, or as the book club, and say, hey guys, we're going to raise this much money for Patch, and it's going to be a fun, competitive way, because at the end of the year, we're going to recognize the top donors or the top teams that donated to Patch. So we'll be reaching out to other local businesses and individuals, and if you want to get in there and be like, I'm going to raise the most for this organization, we will honor you. We will thank you. We're going to have a big celebration at the end of the year to help us have the community support us in continuing to be here.
Of course, yes. You shouldn't have said competitiveness, because a bunch of us are going to hop in there. I know I'm tapping into the to our instincts. Okay, you guys heard it here. Please donate. Please respond to your community. Again, Teresa, muchas gracias. Se te quiere, se te ama, se te estima. Remember, guys, to always be ruidosa.